our candidates and attendees. Again, I am pleased to introduce our moderator today. Her name is Gilda Carew. Thank you, Gilda.
Hi, and thank you, Connie, and welcome to our candidates. Today, as Connie mentioned, this forum will be for District 57, the school board, and just a little bit about District 57. The mission statement is preparing children to learn and succeed in a changing world. District 57 serves over 2,000 pre-kindergarten through 8th grade students in and around the Central Business District of Mount Prospect, Illinois, and the Mount Prospect Public School District 57 encompasses 4.3 square miles, including approximately 10,000 households. District 57 operates 4 schools: Westbrook School for Young Learners, Fairview Elementary School, Lions Park Elementary School, and Lincoln Middle School. Students attend Westbrook for our early childhood program, kindergarten and first grade. Students from Fairview and Lions Park attend middle school at Lincoln, and upon graduation from 8th grade, most District 57 students attend Prospect High School in Township High School District 214. There is a 7-member Board of Education elected by the people for 4-year terms and serving without salary. They're responsible for school management. 3 slots are up for election in 2019. Regular board meetings are open and the public is welcome. There are 4 candidates for these 3 open seats. They are Jennifer Kobus, Kimberly Fay, Christine A. O'Sullivan, and Rachel Rothroff. Rotroff. Thank you. Yeah. And today we have Jennifer Kobus was not able to make it today, so and she did not send a statement. So today we have our candidates Kimberly Fay, Christine O'Sullivan, and Rachel Rotroff. And as Connie stated, they will have 2 minutes for opening statements, 1 minute to answer questions. All candidates will answer all questions, and we will rotate who answers first so that the same person is not always in the position of answering first or last or in the middle. And as Connie stated, there are timekeepers. They will hold up a sign for the opening statements, 1 minute and 30-second warnings, and for the regular questions, 30-second warnings, and then a stop sign. When they do hold up the stop, I will interrupt you, and we will move on to the next person or to the next question. With that, we'll get started with the opening statements. And the way the drawing went, Kimberly Fay, you have 2 minutes for an opening statement.
Thank you very much. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you all so much for coming and spending part of your Saturday morning with each of us. We really appreciate the time that all of you are putting into learning about the candidates, not just for school board, but also for Park District Board and Village Board as well. As was mentioned, my name is Kimberly Fay. I've lived in District 57 in Mount Prospect since the spring of 2013. My family moved here largely for what we knew to be a quality school district. At the time, my daughter was about to enter preschool, and so the consideration of quality education was very important to us. My daughter in that fall enrolled in the ECDEC program at Westbrook, which I really found to give her a very solid educational footing. She's now a 3rd grader at Lions Park, and I really feel that the foundational experience she got by being a part of District 57 school district was really helpful and really set her up to succeed. And so my goal in wanting to be on the school board for District 57 is to secure that same quality education for students that are to come in the future. My role in private life, or public life, I guess, as an attorney, positions me to know how to handle complex situations. I work with clients who are facing tremendous challenges, and I feel that those skills would really translate and transition well into some of the challenges that our district is currently facing.
Thank you. Our next opening statement is from Christine O'Sullivan. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I wanted to thank the League of Women Voters and everyone who's here in the room, as well as those who are watching on TV. Thanks for spending the time to get to know the candidates. My name is Christine O'Sullivan. I'm a District 57 mother, and when we moved to Mount Prospect in 2015, it was specifically for the Excellent School District. I believe that engagement and communication are key for the school board and for the community's involvement. I have a 15-year career in association management, focusing on member engagement and community building and communications. And I just want to engage parents and community members in the strategic decisions of the school board and making it very clear why we're making decisions, calls to action for community members to be involved in the school district and in our decision making, and communicating why decisions are made. It's a really exciting time to be in Mount Prospect. The development that's happening downtown, the successful passing of the referendum, make Mount Prospect just a really great place to be right now, but also with a lot of strategic decisions to be made. I was really relieved when the referendum passed. I had volunteered to engage community members. I had phone banked and emailed with other parents to answer questions and to explain why it was necessary to pass the referendum. But I believe that the referendum was a lifeline and not a lottery ticket, and that there are strategic decisions to be made. The money that we secured is really for maintaining, and we need to make great decisions moving forward to ensure strategic budgeting and planning for the future. I'm also very interested in preparing our students for the future with 21st century jobs and having them have hands-on learning. And I'm really hoping to engage parents and businesses and community with children. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final opening statement is from Rachel Rotroff. You have 2 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here this morning. Thanks again to the League of Women Voters for hosting, Gilda for moderating, and to all of you for being here. My name is Rachel Rotroff, and I'm running for District 57 School Board as a mother, as a teacher, and as a fellow taxpayer. As a mother, I have 2 young daughters who are currently in the back row, and they are students at Westbrook and Lions Park. My husband and I heavily considered the excellence of our elementary schools when we decided to call Mount Prospect home in 2010. As a teacher, I am daily within the public school system, so I'm well aware of the challenges it faces, as well as the incredible opportunities that it can provide for children. Over the past 15 years, I've worked with students, parents, and administrators, and I think that career gives me a unique set of experiences and perspectives that would bring a different voice to the conversation on the District 57 board. We have an excellent school district, but there's plenty left to do. The passing of the referendum last year allowed us to stabilize what was once a pretty dire financial situation, and I worked hard to educate myself and other District 57 parents during that campaign as one of the leaders for Westbrook. But now, as a fellow taxpayer, I also want to be part of the hard work that's going to lead us to sustainability in the long term and allow us to keep promises. If there's one takeaway that I have from speaking to residents over the past few months, it's that our community is very invested in our schools. So I want to ensure clear and frequent communication with our parent community and make sure that everyone feels informed and involved in what's happening in the district. I really believe in District 57. I hope I'll earn your vote for April 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to the questions. Each candidate will have up to 1 minute to answer each question. And the first question will be answered first by Christine O'Sullivan. And the question is, what do you feel is the biggest issue facing District 57 today, and how will you address it?
Great. Now that the referendum has been secured, there is a new pool of funding. There are decisions to be made. We need to look at the projections for the future enrollment and make strategic decisions on the critical maintenance that needs to happen at the schools. I know that a referendum is completely off the table for another decade. We passed a referendum, and that is the money that we have and that we want to be strategic with. But what's really important is engaging the community and understanding the decisions that are being made with the secured funding and explaining really difficult topics in ways that people understand. I do that in my career. I work on podcasts and infographics and slideshows that explain really difficult topics. And I think that can be utilized for the community when it comes to the tax levy, referendum, et cetera, difficult conversations.
Thank you. Rachel Rotroff?
I think that one of the greatest challenges that D57 will face in the coming years is expansion of our student population. Because Mount Prospect is such a wonderful place to live, we are attracting many young families to the area. And that, combined with some perhaps challenging factors that arise from, for example, the TIF in downtown Mount Prospect, that will limit, in some sense, the funds that our schools will receive. I think we have to be very strategic in the next few years to appropriate the money that we have in the district. And I think that with many of our schools near capacity, I think we have to carefully look at what our options are for expanding if needed. I think we need to balance key factors like being proactive with these expansions, providing for our current students while not overbuilding and burdening the community in the future.
Thank you. And the final response is from Kimberly Fay.
I would echo the comments of my fellow candidates in saying that the projected increase in enrollment in our district is a pretty big issue that we'll have to look at over the course of the next several years. That, combined with some of the strain that we're starting to face in terms of our facilities and the current risk of overcrowding that we have in some of our schools. For that reason, it was crucial that the referendum was passed, and I'm grateful for all of those who took a part to help to make that happen. And so now that those funds have been secured, I think that we do really need to be discerning and diligent about the way that we use those funds to address our facilities and the deferred maintenance that the district has put off due to some of the financial concerns, as well as looking ahead to how we build to accommodate.
Thank you. Our next question will be answered first by Rachel Rothroff, and the question is, what are your thoughts on and plans for school safety? Do you have a platform regarding this?
Yes, as well as, unfortunately, some personal experience with school safety. As I mentioned, I work in a large nearby public high school. So I think I hope I am the only one sitting up here today that has ever actively led students through a lockdown. School safety is a major consideration. It's a balance between physically improving our safety that we can see without compromising the values of our district and what we consider important for our child's education. I don't think any of us want our children to go to school in a fortress. That said, I think that there are many efficient and rather cost-effective ways of securing our schools, and District 57 has already taken some steps to proceed with some of them, even things like video surveillance at one main entry, updating internal locks.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Oh, 1 minute.
Kimberly Fay?
The issue of school safety is obviously crucial in the times that we live in. I unfortunately had a recent experience in working very near to the company in Aurora that was recently victimized by gun violence. And the schools in the area did need to be locked down as a result. And as a parent, I definitely felt empathy for those parents that had children in that district. Just the fear that I think is sparked because of the climate that we live in today. And I am grateful for the leadership of the current board and the superintendent in implementing some of the laws that have come down from Springfield with regard to increasing the safety in our schools. I think what I would like to see is a little bit of balance in terms of the way that the students are communicated with.
Thank you. And the final response from Christine O'Sullivan.
Right. I believe that there are some very appropriate measures that can be taken with the safety of a school, including the locks, barricading rooms, and video surveillance. But I would like to see more funding for things that impact the children and their emotional safety and their physical safety. Would that include suicide prevention curriculum, mental health support, anti-bullying programs, and things that really try to get to the root cause of violence, and really help protect our children and have a safe place for our children to have to learn and grow.
Thank you. Our next question will be answered first by Kimberly Fay. The question is, what will you do to increase diversity in hiring? What kind of outreach could be done to bring teachers of diverse backgrounds to District 57 schools?
I think recruitment in our district has been somewhat of an issue in terms of the teacher salaries that we're able to offer. I think that as one of the districts in the area with some of the lowest paid teachers, unfortunately, it's very hard to draw good talent to this area and hard to encourage them to stay. So I see that as a factor in terms of drawing good teachers in general, let alone teachers of diverse backgrounds. I value diversity. I work with immigrant populations in my profession. It's something that I value and respect. And I feel that exposure to people of different backgrounds is really important for our students, not just in terms of who their peers are, but also in terms of who the people are that are leading them in the classroom every day.
Thank you. Christine O'Sullivan.
I believe that you can intentionally recruit teachers of diverse backgrounds, especially focusing on second career candidates who had experience in business or in other, just in different fields, who can teach children real world experience and, hands-on learning. So I think that you can be very intentional when you're recruiting. I served in the AmeriCorps after college. I lived in a rural school district in Goffstown, New Hampshire for a year, and I worked at the school district coordinating literacy programs with students and teachers. And I feel like there are programs that the school district could look into that intentionally recruits people from outside of a community who are there for a short period for loan reimbursement, and they can do some of the work of a teacher or of an assistant. And I think there are lots of different ways to bring in new teachers with diverse backgrounds.
Thank you. Rachel Rotroff.
Thank you. For any group, I believe that a welcoming culture will attract more diverse candidates for our teaching positions. I think that goes for our village as a whole, and its responsibility to provide a welcoming culture to our neighbors, and I think that goes for the school board and the school district as well. One of the things that can do that is by providing an inclusive curriculum to our students, a curriculum where many groups are represented and students can see themselves and their families within the information that they're learning in class. I also agree that we should intentionally pursue opportunities at different job fairs where diverse candidates are more present, and try to attract them to our community. I think that representation is very important, and not just for the students of that group, but for all students to see.
Thank you. Our next question will be answered first by Christine O'Sullivan. The question is, vaping has become a big issue in schools, starting in middle schools. What ideas would you support to give faculty the tools they need to address this problem?
I think that the research based on vaping, it could become a critical health issue for children. As far as supporting teachers, I think that instituting curriculum that supports that the health of students and taking care of their bodies is paramount for children. I think that supporting teachers in providing education on this critical health issue, as well as other drug and substance abuse, is important. And I think that it's not just the teachers that we need to be talking to this about, but our children, young children through high school, about the decisions they make for their bodies and their health.
Thank you. Rachel Rotroff?
Thank you. I believe with many challenges that we face in our schools, including school safety, but also with issues of substance abuse, prevention is based upon the relationships that students have in their lives. And at school, many of those important relationships are with teachers. So I think, as Christine stated, I think that it is important that teachers are very informed about what's going on, but I think that there also needs to be an emphasis on building a culture of trust where students are willing to talk to their teachers about these kind of issues that may not be so comfortable, and vice versa. From a school board perspective, I think communication with our families is also very important. There's always going to be something new that our kids are learning about, and we may be a little behind them in learning that. So I think that part of the responsibility of the school board is to get that information to our families.
Thank you. And Kimberly Fay?
Thank you. With regards to issues like vaping and substance abuse and any other sort of health concern that our students might face, I agree. I think education is an important component to preventing the escalation of some of these things. Teaching students really the impact of some of these habits and how they can affect their overall health and well-being just in general. As I understand it, our district currently has a policy with regard to discipline around these issues, that things are sort of taken on a case-by-case basis. And I really appreciate that approach because it takes into account the students' particular circumstances in terms of why they might be engaging in a particular behavior, and then it can be addressed proactively from there.
Thank you. The next question will be answered first by Rachel Rotroff. The question is, what is your opinion on having a green plan for the school district?
I welcome the idea. I know that one of the challenges that the district faces is that some of our schools are in need of deferred maintenance, and a portion of the referendum funds and the capital expenditures for the next year will be dedicated to updating those buildings. I think that by making our buildings greener, by pursuing options perhaps in solar energy, we can make our buildings into an asset for the district, and something that's not just simply an expense, but over the long term can be a way to decrease some of our costs in that area. And I would like that because I would like more of the cost or more of the revenues to go towards something directly related with students and learning. So yes, I would welcome more investigation into that idea.
Thank you. Kimberly Fay?
Thank you. I agree that green construction is a very important consideration, especially as we look at potentially rebuilding and expanding some of our facilities. I think environmental stewardship is critical for, I think, all facets of life, and to the extent that we are in a place to make an impact on our communities in terms of the footprint of our buildings, I think that it's important to consider all of the options that position us to make the least restrictive impact in the way that we expand. And I agree with Rachel as far as pursuing solar energy and some of the newer environmental technologies that are coming out. I think that those are crucial to incorporate in some of our construction plans down the road.
Thank you. And Christine O'Sullivan?
I agree that having a cost-benefit analysis of long-term projects that are green, and as we update our buildings and as we consider the future. I also think it's a great learning moment for students to be involved, because green technologies are a 21st century job, and I can't think of a better, more hands-on curriculum than understanding how a building is maintained and functioning through green tech. I think that it could be a long-term win for the building and the actual district, but also for children's education to be engaged in green technology.
Thank you. Next question will be answered first by Kimberly Fay. Question is, how do you make sure the tax levy doesn't get raised?
I think we've experienced some of that in the years past in terms of the decisions that the district made to defer maintenance and to cut some positions, cut costs as far as academic aids and other support. It's a very difficult situation. It's a very tenuous decision to have to make when you consider wanting to maintain the quality of our schools and the costs that are involved in doing that. I understand nobody likes taxes. None of us do, but what I feel is the important consideration is the benefit that all of us get from having quality schools.
Thank you. Christine O'Sullivan.
I know that another referendum is off the table for another decade. That was a promise that was made when the 2018 referendum was passed, and I would certainly hold the school district and the school board to that promise. It's always appropriate to do line-by-line budget expenditure review and being very engaged in the long-term and short-term goals of a budget. That includes realistic projections of students coming into Mount Prospect and the district, and working with the village to levy funding from downtown businesses.
Thank you. Rachel Rotroff.
Thank you. I think a piece of information that maybe many in the public are not aware of is that, for example, our village government receives about 11% of its funds from property taxes, whereas most elementary districts in the state of Illinois receive between 80 and 90% directly from property taxes, with D57 being kind of right in the middle at about 84. So there is less wiggle room in the sense of property taxes as an important source of revenue. I think that leaves us to focus at the district level. I think we have to be very strategic with the investments and the expenses that we pursue in the next several years. For example, I know now there are the capital expenditure projects based on the deferred maintenance in some of our buildings, and I think that is an important aspect, but I think we also should look for new ways to perhaps be more efficient with our funds. As we mentioned in the previous question, pursuing ideas such as greener buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be answered first by Christine O'Sullivan. The question starts with a statement. As children grow up and enter middle school, the challenges of fitting in or bullying are more pronounced. Enforcement of current policies has been lacking. What thoughts, decisions do you have to address the lack of enforcement?
Children's emotional safety at a school has to come first before they're able to learn. And that's really a culture at a school. That's not just one program that's put on in the gym once a year. That is teachers who are allies with their students, who protect vulnerable children, who are being bullied or being, who are feeling unwelcome in their own school. And when you're a child, your school is your community. So it is critical that parents and teachers partner together to ensure that children feel safe at school, children are heard at school, and that children who are treating other children poorly are dealt with in an appropriate manner. The emotional safety of our children at school is of the most importance.
Thank you. Rachel Rotroff.
I agree that the social emotional health of our students is paramount, because without that, the other academic pursuits are much, much more difficult to achieve. With that said, I think that this issue needs to be taken on as a whole school community, and perhaps even as a whole district community with an initiative. It really is something that needs to be taken on on a day-by-day basis and a case-by-case basis. And I think the focus with our students cannot be simply punitive, even for the bully, but needs to be restorative so that that child is better prepared to reintegrate with their friends and other students.
Thank you. Kimberly Fay.
I think one thing that often gets overlooked in the context of bullying is what the person who's doing the bullying might be experiencing themselves. And I think it's important that our schools take a trauma-informed approach and consider not just the impact of that person's behavior, which is not to be justified by any means, but to consider the person who's acting out as a person unto themselves and not just as an aggressor, but to take into account the full scope of that person's home life and circumstances to, as Rachel said, bring about a restorative type of way to address that behavior. I think that that's the most healthy and comprehensive way to approach that issue.
Thank you. Next question will be answered first by Rachel Rotroff. The question is, what thoughts do you have in possibly merging District 57 with another district?
That's a really interesting question. I know that that was tossed out during the referendum campaign. I think that District 57 is a wonderful little community, and I think that we have many pros from being a small school district, such things as we are able to take decisions that we know impacts our community because our community is rather close-knit. I would need to be convinced that that was a positive decision for District 57. Looking at it from a financial standpoint, I know that there could be perhaps benefits there in terms of merging with a district that has a larger commercial tax base. But I think we would really need to consider what we value in our schools prior to looking at such a major change.
Thank you. Kimberly Fay?
I agree. I don't find that to be an easy question to answer in the course of 1 minute. I think it takes a lot of consideration and thoughtfulness. And really, I think that that's probably the most important aspect of any board candidate that any of you all should be considering is how well any of us can work together to address a very big question like that and be able to educate ourselves on the issues involved. I mean, certainly there would be financial considerations. Some of the surrounding districts have different curriculum that might be beneficial for our students, and so that would be an asset, but there are also a lot of challenges that would bring about as well. And so in considering candidates, I think that it's important that the voters look for someone who can work together and be collaborative to address some of those concerns.
Thank you. Christine O'Sullivan?
I would certainly need to see research into why that would be a good decision, long-term and short-term goals being met, and why that would be a good strategic decision. I have not heard any compelling reasons why we would want to do that. I think that we have a great community. I think that we have a really appropriate structure for school board and for superintendent and for the teachers and the other administration that the district employs. And I would have to be convinced that it would make sense for us to expand and pair up with another district.
Thank you. The next question will be answered first by Kimberly Fay. The question is, how would you promote better cooperation with other local government bodies, such as the Park District, Library, and Village, to reduce the financial impact of constructing and maintaining physical facilities?
Sure. Well, I think the first aspect to that is education. I think it's important to be aware of what each body is doing and working on and thinking about so that we can find those points of commonality and really work together to address where there are those overlaps. We're very blessed in this community to have a great park district and a great library and a great board of trustees. And it is important that we integrate better to address some of the issues where one tends to impact the other.
Thank you. Christine O'Sullivan.
Mount Prospect's a great community, and that's not just our schools, that's also our park districts and our village itself. I think that interdepartmental and interboard liaisons would make a lot of sense. I know that there is a lot of overlap and people are very engaged, but I think that the community wants to hear how the library is partnering with the schools and how the park districts are partnering with the schools. I would like to hear parental involvement and calls to action for them to participate as well. And really, if these are happening and if liaisons are communicating with one another and they're moving programs forward and engaging the community, Just more communication about what they're doing and how people can be involved would be great.
Thank you. And Rachel Rotroff.
Thank you. As a school board member, I think that our responsibilities cannot just stop at the school level. I think that it's our job to be involved with some of these other governmental bodies or agencies. I have personally found it very, very informative to even attend events such as Coffee with Council or the Joint Review Board regarding the TIF, because those are issues that affect our schools, but it doesn't stop just at the school board meetings on Thursday evening. Right now, I know there's regular communication between the district administration and the village manager, and I'd like to see a little more direct communication between members of the school board and our village government, especially our village trustees, because we both would be direct representatives of our citizens, and I think that that would be a productive way to plan and strategize for the benefit of both of our communities that overlap.
Thank you. Next question will be answered first by Christine O'Sullivan. And the question is, do you feel there's a need to promote the growth of early childhood education? And as a member of the board, how would you do that?
I believe that early childhood education is very important. I know that it's simply a matter of there is not enough space to do a full day kindergarten in Mount Prospect. If maybe someday further down the line, that could be something that could be instituted because we have the infrastructure and the space to do so. You don't have to have a full day kindergarten for excellent, preparation, getting ready for school. Our kindergarten is a great program, but also partnering with the library, the park district, and other places in the village for early childhood education is something that the schools can navigate with those entities.
Thank you. Rachel Rotroff.
Thank you. I agree that the early childhood education that's currently offered through Westbrook is a wonderful program. I would love to see something like that be available to more of our residents because I know that it is generally always full. Another consideration I know that has been brought up is with full day kindergarten, which I also in the long term would very much support. I think that we need to consider the space and the cost when speaking about all of these expansion possibilities. I think we ought to pursue early childhood education that is beneficial to our many working families, and especially families that have two parents that are working. Not only because it benefits our school districts, but it benefits our family and our community in so many ways.
Thank you. And Kimberly Fay.
As I mentioned in my opening statement, early childhood education has been an integral part of my own family's experience in the district, with my daughter having participated in the ECTEC program that was formerly housed at Westbrook and has since moved off-site. And we were tremendously blessed by the integrity and the quality of that program, and I know many other families who have had a similar experience. So continuing the quality of those programs is very important. And our school district has done well with the half-day kindergarten program. All of our schools are rated as being commendable, but one of my goals on the school board would be to see us get to excellent. How can we get to that next step? And I think full-day kindergarten would be a part of that. Unfortunately, due to space and financial constraints, it's not something we can project for in the next year or two, but I'd like to set us up to have that be an attainable goal at some point down the line.
Thank you. Next question will be answered first by Rachel Rotroff. And the question is, teacher retention is a big problem in the education field. How can the school board help make District 57 a place where teachers want to keep working?
And for a question like this, I do feel that my experience as a high school teacher does give me a unique perspective. What I value most is to feel valued and appreciated by those that are in charge of my livelihood, therefore being the district administration and the school board, as well as the community and the taxpayers that fund our schools. I think that creating a culture where it doesn't necessarily all come back to salary, but where teachers are appreciated in many small ways, not just by their students every day who tell them how wonderful they are, but also by the parent community and by the school board. I think recognition goes a long way, as well as involvement, because I think that in that sense, we are telling them that what they're doing matters, and that does a lot for staff morale.
Thank you. Kimberly Fay?
I work as a legal aid attorney, and it's not a job that I got into for the money. I feel like, if I may say so, the same is probably true for teachers, that when you enter a career like that, you have a sense that you probably never will see a six-figure income, but you do it because you know the impact that you can make in a person's life. And I would say that increasing those opportunities for teachers to feel the rewarding quality of their work is what's going to be the most important, especially as we are sort of in a time where we might not be equipped to show that appreciation in a financial sense. I think it's important that the PTOs and the community at large really make a conscious and an intentional effort to let the teachers in the district know really just really how valuable they are. And parents, of course, are uniquely suited to do that because they see the returns.
Thank you. And Christine O'Sullivan?
Thank you. Like almost anyone, teachers will stay engaged in their jobs and want to stay with the district if they feel valued, but if they also see that there is commitment to their professional development, if there's a clear path for them to grow in their positions, if there's mentoring available, especially for a new teacher, to pair up with someone who's more experienced, and just really providing an infrastructure for them so that they can meet professional development goals. Fair compensation is, of course, is also a part of that. And I think that, again, intentionally hiring diverse teachers and people who are perhaps in their second career, I feel like you can attract people who really want to give back, and finding pathways for them to really grow in their positions is great and really helps with retention.
Thank you. Now we'll move to the final question before we go to closing statements. And the final question will be answered first by Kimberly Fay. And the question is, do you feel that there's a need to promote foreign language learning in younger kids? And if so, how should this be done?
I absolutely believe that foreign language learning is important. I myself am bilingual in Spanish. I had the privilege of beginning that education in 6th grade. And I know the asset that skill has been to me in my career, and especially as we consider the diverse and multicultural world that our children are growing up in now, dual language and even multiple language is going to be crucial for them as they navigate into careers and into adulthood. There's also evidence to show that it helps to spark their brain development the earlier that they're exposed to a second language. As far as how it can be done, again, I think there are some financial considerations involved in that. But I know many schools in the area, even at the private school level, are starting to introduce this at 30 minutes a week, just at small increments, just to get some exposure. And I'd really like to see something like that happen in our district as well.
Thank you. Christine O'Sullivan.
Mount Prospect is a very diverse community. We speak many languages here. We have many bilingual families. And I think that early education is the perfect time for children to be exposed to different languages, different cultures, and be able to experience them and learn about where their friends' families are from. My daughter loves gardening club at Fairview, and I love the fact that the school has so many options for children to learn about new things for them, hands-on activities. I think that language clubs, language lunches, fun activities for students to be more exposed to language is a great way to interest them in it and to build it into the curriculum.
Thank you. And Rachel Rotroff.
Thank you to whoever submitted this question. I feel like I could go on for a half hour about this. I am a high school Spanish teacher. I began learning Spanish at around 13 years old, 7th or 8th grade, middle school, much like we offer here. And gosh, it was hard. So much time and effort put into learning a language. Whereas we know from research that children, when they begin younger than usually the age of 10, can acquire native fluency with much, much more ease, which is the reason that I speak to my two daughters in Spanish when I speak to them directly. That is really one of my main goals for them. I think that that is one area where our district is lacking, and I would love to see some incorporation of foreign language learning at the younger grades, where we can take advantage of the benefits to their brain development and health, as well as preparing them to be stronger communicators and to be culturally proficient global citizens, which I think is what we're seeking for them when they leave us.
Thank you. We'll now move to our 1-minute closing statements. And the first closing statement will be from Christine O'Sullivan.
Thank you. I look forward to serving you all as a member of the District 57 School Board. Engagement and communication are key. Our community members want clear information, they want calls to action, and they just want the feeling that they are involved in the decision-making processes and ways to be more engaged with what's happening at the schools. I do that for a living in my position, and I would love to bring my talents to the school board. We have a great school district and community, and this is a very exciting time. So thank you for attending today, and thank you for your vote on April 2nd.
Thank you. Rachel Rotroff.
Thank you. My younger daughter is currently in kindergarten at Westbrook, as I mentioned, meaning that she will graduate from District 57 and Lincoln Middle School in the spring of 2027. She'll be 13, probably very different than the little 5-year-old I have before me, though I feel pretty confident her dad and I will look the exact same at that point. But in all seriousness, my goal for that future scenario is to have our schools continue to grow and evolve, much as she will. And as I try to give her a strong foundation, I'd like to do that as a board member as well and see that our contributions can be the best for District 57. I think it's very important to identify our priorities and receive frequent community feedback before taking major decisions. And I also think that my background in public education can contribute to the conversation in a way that's not currently represented on our board. So I hope that I will earn your vote in the upcoming elections. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. And Kimberly Fay.
I just want to thank everybody again for being here, and thanks as well to the League of Women Voters for organizing this event this morning. I appreciate all of your very engaging questions. As I mentioned, as a legal aid attorney, I feel I have a very unique skill set that positions me well to address some of the challenging issues that our district is up against. In my work, I help to explain to clients some of the complex potential solutions to their problems and help guide them to the solution that will be the best for them. I hope to be able to use that same skill of self-education and accurate conveyance of information in a position on the school board.
Thank you. And at this point, I'd like to thank all of the candidates who appeared today, Kimberly Fay, Christine O'Sullivan, and Rachel Rotroff. Let's give them a big hand. They answered 12 questions. And as a reminder, Election Day is on April 2nd. However, on March 18th, permanent polling places will be open for early voting. So if you prefer to do that, and you can also get absentee ballots, and there are many ways to vote now. So make sure that you're registered and either vote early, not often, but vote early, and, or vote on April 2nd. Again, there are 4 candidates running for 3 positions on the board. Jennifer Kobus was not able to make it today, but today you heard from Kimberly Fay, Christine O'Sullivan, and Rachel Rotroff. So thank you again, and thank you to the audience for being respectful and for your very insightful questions, and we wish you a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.